Hello,
Hello.
everybody.
Good morning. How you doing,
Yep,
Chad?
doing good. Getting all my ducks in a row here, real quickly on my screen.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's just Daniel was just asking, "How's my dad?" I'll mention it again. He's got cancer, got a heart valve problem, and he's not quite standing up on his own. So it's getting better. He's fighting it, and at 92 and a half, that's good. So the stress. I was telling Dave offline, I've gained 15 pounds over this last few weeks. And even Karen, when I told her, she's like, "You don't look it." And my pants are fitting the same. I have a belt that's like really set in the way it fits, with like this loop over and this Velcro.
Mm.
And it hasn't changed. And I don't think my clothes have really changed fitting. So I'm not sure where it is. Maybe a little bit in the gut, I think I noticed, but I'm not feeling like that much, which is just strange. I can't figure out, you know.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
wife is like burden of guilt, you know. It's the burden side of stress. So,
Hmm.
but it'll be
Wow.
interesting to see. And I don't want to really change the way I'm eating, and I haven't changed anything. Um, so I don't want to change the way I eat. I just want to see, making a mental note as of today of how I can work it off. Because it's been like about a week now, you know what I mean, or a week and a half since that last time we were chatting.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, well, maybe it'll just naturally go back down, and it didn't. It's almost like it went up to that peak and just kind of has plateaued. Because I go up or down about 3 pounds. I noticed about,
Yeah. So it's
for
not a
the last
constant.
week.
It's not a constant increase. It's kind of it's
No,
flattened
yeah,
out.
it just literally went up like over a short bit, and then
Mm.
plateaued. And I haven't taken anything different that's like, water retention or anything else,
Yeah.
because
Interesting.
I figured that could happen, because I was going to start, even the supplement thing, I'm going to start taking creatine just to try to get the workouts going a little bit. Maybe at 60 years old, the creatine will help, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. And to me, this is the first time I've been so stressed, I guess, deeply. Because you kind of are getting to know me. I mean, we've kind of been friends for a bit now, and it's like I'm a really mellow guy. Even people say that, when they
Yeah.
hear me talk. I'm really matter of fact and, you know, stuff. And for this to hit me this hard, I thought it was
Mm.
interesting. And I think there's something to it because if again, you and I are both the type that we have to experience it to know it. And I think everybody else is like
Mm.
that. And
Mm.
if we can have that now that I have this stress thing, I don't really get stressed over life too much. I mean, I hate the idiot drivers and I hate, people who push their shopping cart and then park it halfway in the middle of the aisle and walk away to get a sample. But that doesn't stress me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's the real stress of everything going on with my dad and all that stuff that is maybe stress that other people and definitely I think everybody's stress level is going to be different, where people working constantly with stress. Maybe there is something to those people that can't drop that last 15 pounds, like you were saying,
Mm.
if it's a cortisol level or something, there's something in there. So
Yeah. I mean,
it'll be an
like just
interesting thing.
when you think that negative sleep probably makes your cortisol levels go all screwy, then
Yeah.
you know it would make sense like that just the natural stress would screw it up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah. I was going to say 50K for Dave. I hit 10K. So that's cool
Yeah,
for me.
congratulations to Chad as well. Chad's just hit
Yeah.
10K.
And the other thing is, I'm not sleeping very well. I'm having these wacky dreams. So we're dog sitting a friend's dog because they're on vacation, right? And my daughter used to have pet rats. They've passed away, but they're actually pretty cute little rats. So I guess rats, as pets are kind of in my head. So I had this dream.
Mm.
I was sitting there, and this dog that we have is kind of like a small little dog that gets really hyper. and it
Mm.
was trying to barge into a room, and I was trying to keep it out because the rats kept breaking through their cages. And the rats were like, "Hey," but they were like weirdly animated, and then they wanted to like climb up on your shoulder and cuddle with you. But the dog kept
Uh-huh.
coming in and trying to grab them. We kept trying to put the rats in, and the rats kept breaking out of the cage. And just, weird dreams that were very vivid and very
You
memorable
you
or
should
memorable. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird that I'm having these too on this whole stress moment with my dad thing
you
going on.
you should direct the next Pixar movie.
Yeah. But they were funny, man. It was so weird how they were, I mean, I can just visualize like the cage spreading, they're coming out the top of it and the way they were, and just
Mm,
very interesting.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna click on a few of these. So yeah, I think the supplement thing just kind of came because I've been hearing, I've been seeing a few videos with people talking about it. And I always watch a few of the big people too, just to see what they're doing, like the Thomas DeLauer. Whether I agree with him or not, I don't really care. I mean, he has enough researchers that, it's
Mm,
just interesting to see. And I know the iodine thing has been on a couple people's carnivore channels actually, so that's why I popped that up. The
mm,
iron, not iron, the iodine deficiencies.
yeah.
Obviously, the depleted soil and what we get it from, and if the soil is depleted, the plant people. There you go. Was that the iodine?
Yeah.
Yep. I
Yeah. It's
have
just
some and I took it for a while and I didn't notice, but I might take it again. You
yeah.
know,
I'm not sure whether I need it, but I'm just feel like, it just make
can't
sure
hurt.
the thyroid's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
So saying this, no, we don't need supplements and a proper human diet. I had labs for many years and never had any deficiencies. And I kind of believe that. I think it is
yeah.
complete. I think some people coming into it might be deficient in something just from, lifelong habits.
Mm,
I think after long term, most people kind of do balance out
yeah.
and are good. And I also really think the human body's pretty good at getting what it needs and telling us what it needs if we listen to it.
Mm.
You know,
I, I'm
eat.
I kind of have this thing about supplements. I remember reading an article in a newspaper like more than 20 years ago that said some study had shown that um, vitamins and supplements had shown no benefit over time in a particular group of people. And I can't remember how many people were in the study or whatever, but that always stuck with me. And the other thought that I have about supplements always comes down to the people producing the supplements are businesses. And the
Yeah.
business is there for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to make money. And I just feel like, given that kind of thing, um, is it that much of a stretch to believe that really it would be doing nothing? Because
And
they're
big
not
money.
going out. Yeah, they're not going out and getting the vitamins from the best or the minerals from the best places, right? It's all synthetic and mass produced, and so that's
And
probably they have a place, but mm,
a couple of the guys in the health things, the one guy, I can't remember his name. And I like watching him. He's got dark curly hair. He has that Myoscience company,
mm,
something health or something. But anyway, he's, got like 600,000 subs, and he really pushes his brand of stuff. And people definitely really push the brand of their supplements. And hey, more power to them. I'm not
mm,
knocking it, but I think there's money in it. And I really got to
mm,
wonder, what it is kind of for that. And I know the only thing I'm going to start taking, like I said, was some creatine just to see if it helps,
mm,
with the push ups and the stuff, put on some muscle, and everything in the last 2 months has just gone out the window, like I said, with my dad and everything that's going on. But I think the creatine's been around so long and there's so many studies on it and it's so safe, in the doses I'm going to be taking, which is just the recommended, 4 grams, just
mm.
to see if it helps my 60-year-old body tack on some muscle a little easier and at least get it going, and it's cheap.
Mm,
It's really cheap stuff. Got a big bag from Amazon for like $20 or something.
mm.
So
So speaking of muscle, We originally one of the original things for this live stream is we're going to be talking about what we're doing to like put on muscle or get fit or whatever.
Yeah.
I realize lately things have been pretty stressful for you, but prior to that happening, how were you doing with that? Because it's completely gone out the window for me.
I was doing about what I was doing. I was doing my hikes until stuff kind of went out the window. So the last two haven't, but I don't feel any weaker or anything else. But the one thing that's interesting is, and again, I think this is with all this stress, is that I noticed a little bit more getting up my knees and stuff like that. I got to do a little bit more hoisting, if you will.
Okay.
I can still get up, but I can kind of feel it. And I'm excited to just, like I said, not change the eating and just, I'm going to try some other things, to see what it is. I might up my mileage. I might try to cut out a 5-mile loop instead of a 3-mile loop and just add more exercise and see what that does. I'm going to see what the creatine does. And I might start taking iodine again. And, what was it? Some of the magnesium, but not the one that can give you diarrhea. The other one, I can't remember what it is now. But there's no thing, and just a few things just to see if maybe my system from being so wore down for 2 months and my sleep, man, when I look at my watch and track my sleep, it's bad. It's, there's some nights I'm only getting like 3.5 hours of sleep.
Oh, wow.
So, because I'm pretty stressed over it, I talk to my parents all the time and everything's pretty tight with it. And those of you that don't know, my dad went in the hospital a little while ago, and he's 92 and a half. They were going to do a biopsy because they weren't sure about cancer. Then they put him on that, liquid thing to clean out, to get the biopsy done. And they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have put him on the liquid diet for 2 days at 92 and a half years old. And it made it so he quit walking. Then when he went in, he had all these complications. And turns out, yes, he does have cancer, a bad heart valve, and some other junk going on. But now they're trying to get him walking again. So I've been pretty tweaked over that. But the creatine will be interesting. I've got two. Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, has all this stress, has this had an impact on like your heart rate or your blood pressure or anything like that?
No, the heart rate, like when I look at my, most of the time my resting, like when I look at it, I'd have to pull it up, but it's like, right now it's like 58 is like my resting. So I'm pretty good at that. And if I get doing things around the house, I'm at about 68, 70, which I still think is pretty good, for stuff.
Yeah.
So that hasn't really changed. And obviously when I'm sleeping, it's different. You know what I mean? I'd have to look up my sleeping, but it's down there, in like the high 40s, low 50s usually, I think, if I remember right, and stuff. So all that has, and that's the interesting thing about the tracking watches. I actually am liking them for, that kind of thing. See, like last night when I had 5 hours and 38 minutes of sleep, and I'm used to getting at least 7 hours to 8 hours. And I do like getting 8 hours. I feel better on 8 hours. I perform better on 8 hours. I think sleep is really important, and it could be an age thing a little bit, and I do okay on 7 hours too, but I prefer the 8. So yeah, 5 hours, 38 minutes of sleep for me last night.
Yeah.
Which, and like I said, a couple of times it was like 3 something. I'm just going,
Yeah. 3 hours is, 3 hours is rough. Yeah.
It's really rough. But yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Nancy asking, is lamb an alternative to beef occasionally?
So
that's a great,
I'm going to
great alternative, Brian.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing a video on 2 of these things actually coming up. One is lamb. I eat lamb these days. If Dave kind of remembers, I'm eating it about 5 days a week now. I'm eating lamb chops. The only problem I don't like about the little lamb chops is, like I said before on the other one, the little T-bones are too hard to get your teeth in there. And you're like, you can't quite. So it's kind of hard to dig the extra meat out. But I love lamb, and I'm doing really well. Costco here where I'm at in Phoenix has it, the little lamb chops. They're Australian, not New Zealand. The New Zealand stuff is like $15.95 a pound. And the Australian stuff is $5.95 a pound. And a
Oh
while back
wow.
it was $4.95 a pound, but it's gone up to from $4.95 to $5.95. And they're awesome.
Mm.
So I think it's really good. And I know I get way less histamine response, like, that I can tell big time over the beef.
Mm.
So I'm hardcore into lamb.
Mm.
And that's going to bring me to this one. What do you guys think about drinking homemade bone broth? Do you think there's any more benefits as opposed to just eating fatty meats? I'm going to tackle that one first.
Mm.
Yeah, I think collagen is really good. I hedged my bets when I first started. And even though some people say the collagen powder isn't really worth it or any good, I figured it was still cheap enough. And you know what I mean? Like I said, hedged my bets and had it a bunch. And I don't really need to take my shirt off right now or anything. But Dave's, we've kind of compared. And I'm pretty lean, in good shape for a dude that lost over 100 pounds. Dave's
Mm.
seen that. I don't have a lot of loose skin or I don't have anything else. And I do think a lot of that is because I was really into the whole collagen and the OMAD thing. These days, I'm actually having bone broth daily because all those little lamb chops that I have, all the little bones, I save them up and then I'm making bone broth and I put it
Ah.
in the instant pot to do it. And I've been trying different amounts, different things. But it's funny because I eat enough of them in the week, basically, to have a 16-ounce jar of bone broth for every day. So the bones make
Mm.
enough that like last night I made it and I literally have 16-ounce ball jars and I use the freezer type, that don't have the shoulder, and then I seal them up, throw them in the freezer and pull them out. And I tend to drink like 8 to 12 ounces a day. I was drinking 16, but it's just I could do with less. So I kind of want to have it there.
Mm.
If I want to build up a stock on hand. So yeah, I
Mm.
think the bone broth, and when it's good, and mine's like, you could dump it out and it would be like a thing of jello. It's definitely really thick out of the fridge. So I do
Ah.
think there is something to it. And I think the homemade stuff that's super gelatinous, not like a reconstituted, is pure liquid, from everything I've researched, is the way to go. What I have looked into, and I forgot who it was, another, kind of like Dave Wright, another YouTuber was talking about with somebody about some bone broth they were making. And she's like, oh, I make mine like lower time because there's less histamine in it. And I do have histamine response issues.
Mm.
But I'm finding if I do bone broth and I make the bones and then I cover them with water so they're just covered, and I do it for 2 hours in the instant pot, and then I drain the bones out, and then I drain the broth through like another sieve with a paper towel, because I've tried it all the different ways, rough draining, but I like mine super clear. So I
Mm.
strain it through that, and then I do it one more hour. And in an instant pot, I think that's kind of, in that time, some people do it only for an hour, but I've heard you need more time to get all the nutrients out. I've tried it with and without apple cider vinegar, and there's no difference to me in the taste, flavor, everything I researched on the amount of nutrients with the apple cider vinegar. It's nil. So I'm not going to use apple
Mm.
cider vinegar. I just throw in a good tablespoonful of smoked salt to give it a nice, smoky, salty kind of tinge to it. And like I said, I get 16-ounce things out of it. So that, however that works, by the time the bones are out, I don't know what that is
Mm.
for you in, liters, 96 ounces. Let me just see what that is.
I'll have
96
to have a
ounces.
look.
And I'll,
96
yeah,
ounces.
2.83. So 2.83
Ah, okay.
liters.
Well,
So quite a bit.
that's a good amount. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
that's
I think it's
that's
helped
bigger than
me.
a
I
bottle of
really do.
Coke.
Yeah. So to Amber, yeah, I think the homemade bone broth is good. And I think there is something about it just based on the elasticity. And when I look at so many other carnivores who are like me, who've lost over 100 pounds, I don't have the loose skin issues they do, even at 60 years old. I have some, like if I kind of turn sideways, like I had a big fat head, you know, I've got a little bit there, but not really like the issue around my gut or anything. So I'm a big, and this is a supplement. Like the collagen powder is a supplement. Thomas DeLauer had either a guest on or he was talking about collagen, that he's kind of rethought it and actually is starting to really be behind it again. Take that for what it's worth. It is. But what do you think on bone broth now that I've rambled?
I have no thoughts on it because I've never tried it. I noticed Anita said in the comments she's never tried it. Yeah.
Too bad some of you guys don't live close. You're gonna have a little bone broth tea party.
You know what I have tried recently that I just can't stop drinking it is boiling water with salt in it. It's like it tastes awesome. And I wish I'd found it earlier because maybe I would have given up coffee earlier,
That's interesting.
It's awesome. And I just bought some Malden sea salt, so I've been using Malden's.
Oh yeah. So what do you think of that now that you have it? Did you get the smoked one?
Awesome.
Did you get the smoked salt or the regular?
I think it's the regular one. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll have to lean it into the smoked one sometime. This is interesting. Serious stress your bones. I hadn't heard that, so I might have to look into that. Maybe that's part of it. And you know what's interesting though too is the bone broth thing has been going on for only like a month and a half, maybe, before my dad. Like I said, nothing else has changed, so really, and the bone broth for me has only been like, I think I've been talking about eating lamb now for what, maybe 3 months, I think, Dave, haven't I, with you? So I think it's, so maybe it is too, just like the extra collagen and everything else. I notice my nails are growing quicker over the last few months, which is interesting. And my hair is still kind of the same. So that is interesting. Primal Mike. Go through these really quickly. Say hello to everybody. And Daniel is drinking bone broth pretty regular. Didn't seem like it helped me. In fact, I got terrible histamine. That's interesting on the histamine, because if it's done really long, after hearing that one lady talk about the histamine and cooking it shorter, I looked into that and there is some truth to it. So I wonder if you were making it, if it was your own, how you were doing it. Like the Instant Pot, I don't know what to believe, but suppose the Instant Pot's better for it, because even though it's like shorter time cooked, it's like it's getting a longer cook, but without the differences. And I mentioned that before, like I cannot eat chuck roast out of a slow cooker. My nose will just turn on like a faucet. But if I do in the Instant Pot, it won't. And also the lamb broth, I tease my wife, do you want to try some? No, I'll have some tomorrow. That's a joke with, tomorrow comes and tomorrow. But I wonder too, the lamb being, all grass, and everything else, that it's different than like a beef broth. Because I haven't done it with beef. I've only been doing it with the lamb. So, weird dreams. Yeah. My dreams are just bizarre. I mean, the rat one really stood out as just weird, And some weird hiking ones, like bad stuff happening to me on my morning hikes when it's pitch black.
Oh, no.
Like, you know what I mean? Like headlamp goes out and I get attacked by like javelinas, which are kind of like a wild boar pig thing here. And just weird stuff like that. That is funny though.
Oh, no.
A1 meat eater. Sprint. Yep. What is it? Sean O'Mara?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sprint.
Sprinting's really good. I know that. I've been doing some on an elliptical, but not on the ground because I have no grass anywhere near me. I'd have to literally get in a car and drive a while to get to a place to sprint with grass. So, and it destroys me when I do it. I'm like jello legged. I don't take any supplements, but I think they could be used once you optimize your diet and you still have clinical deficiency. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of us think. And I think
Mm,
some of them, you, it's like me going to start taking the creatine, just to see what it does. And like you with the iodine, and I had some iodine from a long time ago and I might start taking it again. I think sometimes those experiments that a lot of us do are the only way to know is just take it and see what happens, then stop and then start taking it again. And I also think there's a big something, and I'd be curious if you guys type this out that are watching too. I'm a firm believer, and I've heard Dr. Chafee say this. You can usually kind of tell if something's off or you're not feeling right. If you've got those symptoms, you're tired all the time or lethargic or you've got stuff. And I don't have anything to make me go, oh, why is this happening? Why am I whatever, seeing white flashes or whatever, or why am I doing this? And then look it up and go, oh, this could be this kind of a deficiency. I don't have anything to really look up.
yeah.
So any other thoughts from you as I click through these? How many drops are you
Yeah.
doing, Dave?
2 a day.
Is it a 2% solution?
I have no idea. It's not the one that I can't even see it because of where my light is.
You're getting old. You're getting old.
Liquid,
your eyes are going.
Liquid concentrate, 2 ounces, 400 servings. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if it says, because I know I have the 2% stuff, and I was doing I worked up to 5 drops a day.
Okay. If you take magnesium for cramps but still have caffeine and dairy, that's a no, since they deplete magnesium, so limit that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what's even funny about sweetened vitamin C tablets, since the receptors of sugar, sweetness and vitamin C are the same receptors. But it's like, here's gummy vitamin C's. It's like, okay, that's kind of a,
Yeah, you could be fighting against each other.
Yeah. That is funny, though. I got to catch up on this.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about vitamin D supplements and how it helps.
I think, my mama said, if you can't say something nice, so I won't say anything about Dr. Burke. Correct. If I eat meat, which obviously I do, I eat a ton, but I have heard even some carnivore people mention that, they did it. And I'm just curious. Like I said, it was cheap enough. I'm just curious if it'll kind of hyper boost or boost that little bit to kind of put me over the edge. Especially it being over 60 years old. There's a lot of kind of studies about that, that I do have a limited amount left to kind of optimize. So yeah, I'm familiar with that. But again, that's just one of my things that, I'm just going to try just to see what happens. And it's in a powder form that I drink with water that, And again, I think this is also fun for people like me, because then I can talk about it and experience it. And I also do just want to flat out experience it. I am a tester beyond testing. I had a couple good comments from a few vegans this week too. I'm sure we both get those.
Did you?
I had a couple, that were just, the typical garbage, I could look them up even, but they're not even worth the time. Just the typical, you're wrong. There's scientific proof that, meat will kill you, and, just the garbage like that. And, I have a 75% chance of getting plaque in my arteries, because that's what the medical facts say, that anybody who eats meat has a 75% higher risk of plaque in their arteries. And I can't dispute that. I think when they start using those meat things, because we all know how, like, if you have pizza, they consider you a meat eater because there's meat on pizza. Or
Yeah.
if you have like, a hamburger, you're having that. And I'm just going to start turning it on them and saying, well, there's tomato sauce on pizza and there's usually ketchup on hamburger. So I guess you guys are the same as us since there's,
Yeah.
you know,
I
lettuce on
mean,
that or tomatoes on your pizza. And so does that mean you're in the same park as us? How do you separate it?
mm, I mean, there's more plant-based stuff in a Big Mac than there is meat-based. It's yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that too about the kidneys thing. That's why I said that's why I'm not going into like the mega doses. I'm going to keep it to the 4 grams
Uh,
and try it. And I do appreciate all the input too on it, but I'm just going to, like I said, it's, I think Dave and I are on the same page. Sometimes you got to experiment and it'll,
yeah.
know what happens and it'll make a good video and I'll know for
Mm,
sure. And I
mm.
think too, me at 60 years old, if I was younger, it would be a different thing. I used to be able to pack on muscle really quickly. It's not so quick anymore. I feel
Yeah, I've
fine.
seen
I
that.
don't hurt or anything, but it's just not going on like it used to.
I remember that kind of Jean-Claude Van Damme picture you've got of yourself when you're on the boat. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. Mm,
I had really good lats and stuff. I had pretty darn strong. Yeah, the histamine. If we're talking about the bone broth, you could look up the bone broth and how time to cook it if that's what you're talking about. You know, taurine, magnesium, and iodine, but not anymore. It's just interesting. I've been seeing the iodine thing pop up on a lot of carnivore people here again this last month.
mm,
Don't worry about building muscle, sprint, sprint, sprint. Yeah, no, it's not about building muscle as much as it is just, I think Dave and I have talked about this, about just getting stronger and doing what we're doing
mm,
it for, for our life. That was part of the original thing. Like, I don't want to gain weight. I want my hiking and bicycle body side back. So I don't want to be one of those, I have no desire to be as big as like Chafee or Dr. Baker. Like, if anything, I'm more like, the Sean O'Mara type, just like a normal looking dude, but, have my bicycle and hiking ability. And hiking, 3+ miles a day is no issue for me at all. It's just like I went out for a walk. I don't even break a sweat. I usually have 15 pounds in my pack and I'll probably see how that goes and I'll up that. But I might, like I said, start doing a bit more. But it's also because I love backpacking and I love hiking and I want to do
mm,
more, long distance camping where I'm putting in 20 miles or something stupid.
mm,
Depending on where the soil, and that's the problem when the soil gets depleted. The iodine's not
mm,
in the soil anymore, is what everybody says. And I'm sure you guys all know that too. And that's a
mm.
huge, kind of thing. I think, I don't know if you guys are seeing it. I think Daniel's asking if you've been posting videos, Mike. I know I haven't been except for the lives, but I'm going to be. Like I said, I think my dad's in a spot now where he's in the rehab. Things are kind of mellow. You know what I mean? Things are kind of stabilized out at least, and
Mm,
he's working on it and stuff like that. Still sucks though with cancer.
yeah.
And like I was saying to Dave earlier too, my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, we lost to cancer here recently too.
Mm,
So it's something that I was looking into. The lamb chops are easier to chew for me than the ribeyes. That's interesting.
mm.
Nancy, are you getting the little
Interesting.
T-bone kind of lamb chops? Because I know there's some people called, what I mean? They're sometimes they'll package the lamb chops. Like I said, the little tenderloin side is so teeny. I wish there was more. My boy's been eating them though. The
Mhm.
ones I get from Costco are pretty thick cut. They're good like 2-inch thick ones. They're almost like a square. But he's been really liking those when I cook them, and I dry brine them. You guys know me and the dry brining, so I dry brine them with smoked salt for 2 days.
Uh, I'm interested. I wonder why there's such a difference in price between the Australian
I don't
ones
know.
and the New Zealand ones. So you get a
Designer lambs, I guess. I don't know. You know what
free
I mean?
gold with the branded
Yeah.
Versace lambs or something.
Yeah. I do not get the histamine issues at all with the bone broth, but it is lamb bone broth. So I should try to get some beef bones and make beef ones and see, because I don't have any histamine issues with the lamb I'm eating. Now, I know it has different, ratios of proteins, but the other thing, it is completely grass. You can say grass fed and not just finished, on grass. It eats grass, from beginning to end, as I understand it. All of it does down there. Now, when I tried a whole bunch of grass fed beef, I never noticed a difference, which is strange, but that
Mm.
was a while back. I haven't tried it in the last year or so. I might have to get a hold of some. It's just so expensive. And that's the other thing. I just feel better. I just have this better feeling eating the lamb than I do the meat. It's really strange.
Interesting.
And again, is it the
Mm.
grass fed? I mean, I'd love to hear anybody's input out there too, what they think, if it's like, hey, it could be the grass thing, or if they've eaten lamb and feel better, or if it's just a different ratio or whatever it is. And actually, like right now, I just did a whole bunch of chuck roast because my lamb is going to be drying. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I'll kind of alternate. I try to get about 2 days of beef in a week, and then five
Wow.
plus of the lamb. And sometimes I'll cross over the lamb. I'll just have like 3 of the lamb chops or 2 of the lamb chops with, some meat. So it's kind of a half and half thing.
Mm.
So yeah, I do not get histamine issues with the bone broth, but it is lamb bone broth. So, and I do get it when I eat even the chuck roast. I'll get a little bit of it. I should actually make a really gross video sometime of me eating like chuck roast from the Instant Pot and just go, look, and just show how wet my nose gets, because it runs, man. It's weird. But again, some of you that might not know, I have really severe allergies. Like, I used to have anaphylactic shock happen to me, kind of
Oh
bad
wow.
allergies. So not the like, oh, I've got the sniffles.
Mm.
Oxtail bones. I tried it once with oxtail bones, but I'm not a huge oxtail fan. I can see why people like it. Pork I've never done. But so, and if that's like a combo, that could be pretty good.
Mm.
Susie, I would love to hear, do you like your bone broth super purified clean, or anybody else who makes it? Do you guys like it really super, like I strain mine, like I said, through the paper towels to get it that much cleaner, because I just like it better than having the little bits in there. I don't know why. It's just probably the same reason I have to stack my forks in the drawer, something about it. Yeah, the chicken I make for my wife sometimes when we get a chicken, if she gets like, I don't eat chicken anymore, but like if she gets a rotisserie chicken, I'll take the whole chicken and chuck it in the Instant Pot, put some water over it, then she'll throw in like, carrots and garlic and whatever else she likes in it,
Mm.
and we make bone broth. The homemade stuff's awesome though. I mean, it's like you can put a spoon in it and the spoon just stays straight up. It's just this thick,
Oh
gnarly
wow.
gelatin. It is really. I'll do some videos of mine, and then like I said, I microwave it
Mm.
and do that. When I, heat it up, I just microwave it. And I do put cream in it sometimes, but I don't do cream. So like this morning when I had my glass, there was no cream in it. But it is
Mm.
one of those treats. If you want it really special, put cream in your bone broth. It's good.
Interesting.
And don't call the frother a whiskey, because Dave will think I'm putting whiskey in my. Remember that one? I couldn't think of the name of that. What is an Instant Pot, please? It's a pressure cooker. It's a modern version of the old fashioned pressure cooker that's got a bunch of buttons on the front, and they can charge 3 times as much. But since you can
Mm.
just plug it in and it's like an appliance, it looks like, you know, any other appliance you would put on your counter nowadays. It's got like I think a 6-quart, mine is 6 or 8 quart stainless bowl inside, a lid that turns on and locks and has a pressure release valve. And you can set different timers for it. And I
Mm.
only use a few timers. Like when I do chuck steak, I get the chuck steaks that are cut thin, and I'll throw those in the Instant Pot, the harder bit. I'll take out like the eye of the chuck and eat it. But the harder bits, I throw it in there for 10 minutes and it softens it up and it makes it quite a bit better without overdoing it. Yeah, it takes longer. I've
Mm.
heard now this is what I've heard again, and I don't know because I haven't done it. Like I cannot eat chuck roast out of the crock pot without getting a massive histamine thing, but if I do it for that short time in the Instant Pot, I'm okay. If I do a sous vide, I actually get nothing. My preference for chuck steak or chuck roast is in the sous vide for 24 to 36 hours at 132 degrees, and it's amazing. And I have heard that doing bone broth out of an Instant Pot is like less histamine response. So we use vinegar for the acid and draw minerals, and that's what I've read about. Then I looked at some research, and it was pretty minimal, so I don't bother doing it anymore because I'm one of those carnivore people that don't even use seasonings really, unless I have a bite of my boy's taco meat or something. But I don't think it hurts. That's just rub my belly twice, pat my head 3 times, and spin around kind of guy. It's just silliness that I just figure anything less than I have. And when I did keto, I was one of those people that drank apple cider vinegar every morning.
Mm.
And in the evening, actually. Yeah, I have seen stuff on it, and it's like whatever the differences are, it's like less than 1% of difference that you're pulling out of it that I've heard.
Mm.
Collagen peptides, maybe wow. Were those? I wonder if those were like was that like a powder kind of thing then, or a pill, or because I know I just get the powder stuff. I noticed the powder now at Costco though has like. I'm kind of bummed because it's one of those, oh, we're going to new and improve it. And I think they might have ruined it and they're charging like $3 more. And it's supposedly got, I forgot what it was, like some kind of microbiome gut, you know what I mean, thing in it now to make it even better. And I'm like, I don't, I like things that are just one simple thing if I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Not like
now
throwing a
it's
bunch of others.
new and improved, supports your microbiome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Verdict is still out about bone broth. I saved the broth of 2 roasts I made, got some lovely tail off it to use. Yeah. See, at least for me, the bone broth I do is strictly just from the lamb bones and, destroying those little puppies, and they come out all gnarly looking when they're done. I used to try to drink some of the stuff like when I would make roast, but it usually doesn't, I don't know, it's just not the same to me. Kind of rips my gut apart sometimes. The lamb I buy, it doesn't say grass-fed, though. I think if it's from Australia or New Zealand, it kind of is by its nature, as I understand. Everything I've read and researched, it is by its nature. Parmesan cheese from Italy, not like me being in the US, not domestic, and I don't know, like, for you in Japan, if it was like made in Japan Parmesan, I don't know if they'd have to follow, but true Italian Parmesan has to be made with raw dairy. And since all the cows in that region that it has to come from are all A2 cows naturally, it's naturally raw and naturally A2. So I think there's little unsaid things about that. Now, again, if the lamb, and that's just from at least my Costco, because I even asked the butcher about it, the Australian stuff and what he knew. And, that's what he was telling me. Then I did some other research on it. And for a while, mine was saying grass fed on it. So I know they used to do that. And then there's also at Sam's Club has the lamb. They don't put out much though. They put out like 6 or 8 packs and that's it. So when I go there, I just take all 6 or 8 packs and leave nothing for anybody.
That's what our
Lamb
supermarket's like when I go in there and I'll buy ground beef and I take like there's 4 packs there. I'll just take the 4 packs and then like I'm walking away with that in my cart and people are looking at me like, What just happened?
Is it a small enough store where the checkers kind of know you? Because you would stand out too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Gaijin,
yeah, yeah.
Gaijin eat
Yeah,
no meat. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like,
It's like he only ever buys eggs and meat. What's going on with this guy?
that's funny. You know, it is funny though, because I could totally see that. It's kind of like that story I said about Central America when I was living there, you know, in the meat, when I went to the one market and I was like, oh, that meat looks good. And it was like way kind of in a back room and sitting there, it looked like a big, you know, quarter of a cow that was cooked until the guy shooed away all the flies. And then it was like red. Then he cut it off with this gnarly knife. And then all the flies came back on and it was pure black again. And I was like,
Oh my
I don't know about
goodness.
that. It was an
Yeah,
eye
yeah.
opener. I was like,
Oh.
oh, I would say, you know, Dan, I'd say try it and see. I like my Instant Pot. I have an air fryer that I got to try and I almost never use it. My wife uses it for what, like Brussels sprouts and asparagus and loves it. And I've tried it once in a while. And if I had two devices that plugged into a kitchen that I would say to buy, the first one would be a sous vide and the second one would be an Instant Pot. That's me because of things like the bone broth or doing tough cuts quicker. The better my pain is man. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see that though too.
Wow.
I could see that relation. Just thinking that it would be like that. Any thoughts on that, Dave?
I I've had bad cramps. I would say just eat more salt. For me, salting things very, very, very liberally has done away with the cramps completely. It's like it's gone, and then I'll have one day where I've run out of salt or something, and like the next morning I'll be in bed with cramps. So yeah, I would say check your salt first.
Yeah, and I only had cramps like a couple times for a short while, and it was kind of when I was riding more, and I would just go down and take a pinch of salt, kind of, you know what I mean. Take it, have a sip of water with it, take another pinch, take a sip of water, kind of sit for 5 minutes and see, and they would go away. And I don't know about you, but and also curious even from other people out there too. Like sometimes I'll have meat left over. I always cook enough where I have some left over because in case I get hungry later, I don't have to think about it. I can just go in and grab it. And then when I'm making my meat the next day, I can just finish that off first. So I perpetually always have leftover meat in the fridge. It just has worked for me since day one. And sometimes I'll have it the next day and I'm thinking, man, did I put too much salt on it? Or I'll be like, oh, I need to put more salt on it. It's really weird how my salt varies so much from day to day by flavor, taste or whatever. I don't ever like measure. I'm not ever putting an exact amount on. I just kind of put some on, taste it, and okay, a little bit more, and I kind of build up to it. But I've had that happen quite a few times.
I see that it would taste too
Hey,
salty
Rick.
the next day. I think for me that would be more about it, being cold the next day rather than anything. I
Yeah.
think when it's
I usually
warm, I
heat
think
it
that's
up.
different. Oh, okay.
I throw it on like a sheet pan and then put it underneath the broiler for like 7 minutes. And that's how I tend to heat up my meat all the time.
Mm,
Unless the sous vide is going, because I have the sous vide going enough, I can throw it in a bag and then submerge it in the sous vide, and that's always the best.
mm.
Took perfect supplements, collagen for years, just 2, 3, not noticing. Yeah, so I think it's interesting with like I said, the collagen I'm doing is the powder drink stuff, and like I said, I did it religiously when I first started for the first year, then I quit, and then because of this working out thing I've been doing, I just decided to kind of take it as a little bit more, you know, an extra 20 grams of protein is kind of how I'm looking at it. So yeah, little tip there. Yep.
You got a question about the Instapot there, I think. Right down the bottom at what hour is it there for you now? Two
Yeah, it's 20
2:18?
after 2, yeah, 2:20. So 3:20. I meant. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So question from Lambs.
Let me see where that's at.
That's it.
Have you looked at the Instant Pot Duo crisps? I have seen them, but I don't. I already have a, you know what I mean, the pressure cooker I got on sale at Costco. I'm kind of cheap, and it's working great. And it's just, whatever the Instant Pot brand. So I've been pretty happy, and I already have, my sous vide set up that's pretty good. I mean, it could be something to do. I know the sous vide can do, or the Instant Pot, even the one I have, can do the sous vide, but I've never done it because I already have a circulator. And I think that one of the keys is I've heard that the circulators definitely do a better job of keeping the water moving over the meat the whole time and do a better job. But for a dual purpose like air fryer sous vide thing, I could see that probably being handy. I probably could have done one of those, rather than the dedicated air fryer we have that I don't use and my wife does for vegetables.
Brussels sprouts, no less.
Yeah. Oh, I hate those things. Oh, stink up the whole kitchen. At least I cook outside all my meals. Yeah, I think Costco. I like Costco meat better, but Sam's Club meat is cheaper and it's still good. At least I don't know if you have a Sam's Club near you because a lot of Walmart Sam's Club, is the same company. And the Sam's Club meat goes on sale if you get there in the morning. That's what I like, and it's quite a bit cheaper. It's 25% off. So ground is only like 10% off, but I don't eat much ground beef. First time I saw a grocery cart with all meat started. Yep. I start conversations if I can to spread the word in stores, because I've had some people wonder why I'm buying so much. I love this one. I love the carnivore. Stop hanging out with all my friends.
You remember at the start of the pandemic, and everyone was like panic buying toilet paper?
Yeah.
It's still there, like carnivores would still be like the only panic buying they'd be doing is like stocking up on beef, They wouldn't be worried about the toilet paper.
No. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I got to put this up. My nightmares were about suffocating because my nose stops up when I lie down.
Oh.
That would be a bad nightmare. Due to bone deformity. Yeah, I've got such bad sinusitis problems and sinuses. The one thing that's interesting for me too in dreams, just to totally take this off another direction, I raced motocross big time for a long time. So I was quite used to crashing all the time. So like, when you're in a dream and you're falling, usually you wake up before you land or hit. Like all my dreams, like I hit. Like I can fall out of a building and hit. And like I can like be in a really violent car crash off a cliff and I hit and I tumble and I climb out of it in my dreams. And I don't know if that's because of all the years of motocross, like, having bad tumbles and just being used to it. But that is funny because a lot of people don't, when they have a dream, if they like have a bad thing happen, they wake up from it.
Wow.
So I think that was kind of an interesting, because I used to have these dreams when I was racing that I would go off jumps, and for some reason I would just take off into the air like an insane height, like and never come back down. And that was always a bad, I'd be like 800 feet up or 1,000 feet up in the air kind of thing though. So it was pretty funny dreams to me.
Pretty scary though. Like when if you hit and you're not waking up, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. I'd hit and it'd just be like, like in my dream, and I'd be like, and I'd kind of get up and try to get back to my bike or something, or That was a very
Wow.
weird. I think the body knows a lot. I think the body knows when it's, satiated, and the body knows when it's not feeling good and needs rest. And I think a lot of people just haven't learned to listen to their body. I think a lot of carnivores do. And I don't know about other people eating other food, but I'm way more in tune than I used to be, because before I'd be like, oh, I'm hungry. Big thing of peanut butter. Hey, peanut butter and Nutella on a spoon was one of my treats when I was fat, man. You get like a spoon of peanut butter and a spoon of Nutella and mix it up. It's kind of like a
Oh
Reese's
no.
peanut butter cup on a spoon, but
Mm.
and you look at the ingredients in Nutella and it's just like palm kernel oil and cocoa and sugar, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. According to some vegan doctors out there, apparently palm oil is very good for you.
Yeah. So I guess we can eat that now.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know that there's so much out there on this stuff. It's like an interesting, I know there's some downsides to drinking too much bone broth. I have heard that you don't want to overdo it. But, it's kind of like that recent thing about the heart disease and protein. Did you guys hear about that one here in the last week or so?
Oh, yeah.
Something came out about that. And then when you actually dissect what it is, it was like they were taking Nestle, some kind of Nestle protein drink that like old people would buy in the case lot at Costco. That's like basically, again, like, some kind of seed oils and corn syrup solids and all this junk in a chocolate thick shake. And that's what they were considering protein. Therefore, meat causes heart disease. It's just, you know,
Everything is such a leap just to be able to
yeah.
say meat is a problem. Yeah.
Well, and a couple of those ones I had in the comments, like when I got a couple people here this week posting stuff, I pulled out like 2 or 3 comments out of PubMed, not comments, but like links, the articles talking about the mental disorders that some vegans get, how they're showing like, less cognitive ability, mental disorders, and link those. And I used to just link those and just say, this is proof, and just leave the link there and not say anything about them and let them go
Mm,
look at them. And, but I don't even do this as proof anymore. I just put the links up there
yeah.
and let other people go read it. But it is funny kind of things. Hello from Canada. My wife's from Vancouver originally. It's expensive up there now in Vancouver area, though, homes and just general living. It's
Mm,
expensive everywhere, but boy, Vancouver really went up.
mm,
Question. So your diet hasn't made. For me, it's made it extremely good. I'm a little sniffy right now because I just had a bunch of chuck roast before I came on. And
mm,
like I said, I get more of the chuck roast. If I eat the lamb, I don't get any, but I still get a little
mm,
bit with it. Yeah. So for me, my allergies are, I would say 95+% better. Everything about my respiratory system is better.
nice.
And that leads to another thing, the NAC, the NAC, the whatever the supplement. I know that's good for respiratory things. I've often wondered about trying that or not, but Harry, the problem is every supplement I've tried just doesn't really affect anything. You know,
Mm,
I'm kind of thinking that the creatine's not going to do anything, but again, I just want to try it. It's worth it. Why not make a good video and see if it can kind of help push me over the edge?
mm. Everything's worth a test, right? Especially when we've eliminated so much from our diets. It's so easy to test.
Yeah,
Mm.
Nutella's axle grease and sugar with a chocolate flavor.
Mm.
Laugh awaken with a Woody. I know it's going to be a good day. It's actually, remember JP mentioned that. I think he probably did in your interview, didn't he? Remember JP, was it Loeffler?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about that at his age, And then
Mm.
he actually did a bunch of research on it that it definitely. Here's the funny thing. I used to own a bike shop So I used to work on bicycles a lot, so I'd always have like some kind of lubricant on my hand, and you'd always be like snacking on something, and you'd forget and start licking and you're like, oh. Did the same thing when I used to work in darkroom because I was a photographer for the last 20 years, and before that, I even worked in darkrooms. And like, if you have like fixer or this acetic acid is what they call stop bath in between your developer. It's like you develop the prints, then you put them in a stop bath, which stops the development, then the fixes it. And if you have that stuff on your fingers, it's pretty gnarly. Like photochemicals are like just
wow.
really gnarly. But I used to do that, not thinking like have a sandwich while I'm on a long stint in the darkroom. That just made me think of that with the axle grease, kind of thing. Used to binge on salted roasted peanuts. Well, is there any more questions? I know Dave's got a jump here. Here's one on this. I tried to made my gun. Oh, that makes me want to say, yeah, maybe not. See, that's the other thing with supplements. Again, I think we're both all at the agreement. We don't really need them. I'm curious to try them, but when I hear weird stuff like that, I think there's that point of testing too many, and then you don't know what's helped. So if you just test one thing once in a while, I think it's okay. But I've lived this long without it. If I've made 60, I probably don't need it. Well, that's something to say and can't really. Like I've said this before, and you guys might have heard this from other people. Nurses call them bedpan bullets. And you talk to people that pump heads, and they say like whenever they're pumping out heads, there's always like just a ton of these like multivitamin supplement things still in the bottom, undigested. And they're kind of a pain to suck out because the sucking out thing doesn't quite suck them out easy. So they've got to work at it, getting them out. Such a pleasant thought.
Thank you for the Monty Python reference, Aid. You a fan of Monty Python, Chad?
I like some of the stuff, yeah. I remember watching it because I'm old enough to remember watching it, yeah. There was another one too that was out of Canada that was like some weird hour thing. And I remember watching the one skit that really stood in my mind was this one weird one with like a boot to the head. It was about this like, we're going to read the will and it's kind of this Monty Python-ish. And it's like, and to my one son-in-law, a boot to the head. And they'd kick him in the, in the skit kind of thing. And it's worth looking up. If you just looked up, whatever Canada comedy show boot to the head skit, you'd probably find it. But how how there's weird things you remember about certain Monty Pythons, whether it be the bunny attacking, or the dumb knights, or those kind of things. That boot to the head one, or the one Canadian thing, always stood out in my head. And I used to use that all the time, and very few people ever got that reference. And a boot to the head, or it's I think it's a boot to the head, not a kick to the head, but a boot to the head. Bullwinkle, Rocky and Bullwinkle show. Well, we could go down that aisle and stay forever. My old comic TV thing was Marine Boy. I love Marine Boy.
Marine Boy.
Yeah, Marine Boy. It was kind of like a speed racer, like a Japanese anime thing, and it was kind of like that. But he could chew aqua gum, and he had a pet dolphin, and which kind of fits, I guess, with me diving for the first half of my life. Canadian chick. Yeah, I'd have to look at that. My wife is, but I just remember the Canadian skit with the boot to the head thing. The banana splits. Did you ever have a favorite show when you were like Dave?
A favorite show?
Like when you were a kid that you remember, like the banana splits kind of thing or something?
No, I watched
Aussie show, or was it?
When I was a kid, I used to watch like just comedies all the time, like Monty Python, Fawlty Towers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Australian comedy wise, one of the funniest ones for me when I was a kid was Kingswood Country. And it's just almost like a Married with Children kind of thing. Yeah.
Huh. That's funny.
My Secret Valley. I don't know that one. Ah,
I don't know what that is. Well, now you're going to be curious though.
yeah, I'll have to check. I'll have to look that one up.
Like, what was the weird psychedelic one with the guy with the little piccolo in his pocket? Do people remember that one? It's like the weird little HR Puffin stuff. HR Puffin stuff.
Ah,
That's what it was.
okay. I know the name, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad, I'm gonna have to bounce.
Yeah.
I've got to get ready for
Yep.
an interview. So,
Alrighty.
from me, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Hit a like if you can on both our things. Leave a comment. Comments always help quite a bit. It's one good thing to know. If we always watch other people's videos, just leave a comment saying, hey, liked it, anything, because comments are huge for YouTube folks. So would appreciate it. Alrighty.
Cheers, guys.
Take care, all. A hooey ho.